March 25th, 2022. I had never heard of Pachinko. There's a filmmaker, So Hugh, but she spells Hugh different. I spell Hugh like nephew. She spells it in a different ugh kind of way. UGH, ugh. A new series following Korean immigrant family, but the sound phonetically sounds the same, but druidically has a completely different interpretation. Now, I don't know if this is some admission of guilt. That's what it looks like to me. Saying things in filmmaking, whatever. She says, like, thanks to USP and whatever for opening their checkbooks and whatever, and putting a paradox or parallel together on story. But Pachinko, apparently they're acknowledging this word. I mean, for me, it looks like pack of the hin, and then it looks NKO, which in Korean KO is whatever it is, in a split world. But it concerns me that it has the word hin in it for Hindu, since I have a holy and a colorful bunch of powder dancers in New York. But Pachinko is, apparently she says, some arcade game, not archaic, although whatever, where pinballs or balls go flying somewhere. And that's interesting because just earlier, between Fortress of Solitude and the War Room with the teleportation device, or the portal hole to their dream, my nightmare, looking at whatever they're throwing at me this morning in semi-intelligence of like a artistic whatever admission. It just say it's like it, her interpretation of it, which I thought was very well done, by the way, is that it, of explaining it's a game of chance. I think that if I refer back to the rock wall, the paper, and the scissors committee, that's not the dream we were going with for image consultants and building a nation. That seems to be some hybrid foreign body dream that is trying to interfere or compete with the necessity of this nation's security being inside the continental North American whatever. So, with that being said...
Absolutely. So many people have come up to me through the making of this show for the 4 years.
So this is how she spells her name. She's showrunner, executive producer, writer. I know that the Hashogi words in Druidic are much more important at times, with referring in an OCD kind of format oneself and what your intent is when performing such feats and such acts.
People from all backgrounds, all ages, and they talk about, I just want you to know, this reminds me of my grandmother. She came over from Germany. She came over from Ghana. She came over, and then you just realize everyone has a Sunja in their lives, all of us. And that's what this show has done. It's really started that conversation with so many people, so many tears.
Yes, lots of tears, and really tugs at the heartstrings. Also, it's so celebratory too.
Yes.
I want people. You drew me in with the open of the show. Your decision, the decision that you made to have such a celebratory open, because to be honest, I didn't even know what pachinko was. I didn't know if it was a person. I didn't know if it was a place. You knew, huh?
Well, yeah. Well, I mean, I spent some time in Japan and in Korea, but also I read the book. My wife and I read the book by Min-Jin Lee, and so.
Yeah. But tell everyone what pachinko. Did you know what pachinko is?
No.
No, I had no idea.
So pachinko is this arcade-like game. It's like a pinball machine, straight up, and it's a game of chance. Balls go flying in the air, and you either win or lose. You have no control over it, and it's a great metaphor for the show as well.
Right. And you say the show it's a universal story about humanity. Now, when we read the book, we thought to ourselves, this has got to be turned into a movie or a series. I'm a huge fan of Min-Jin Lee. Yeah, it's a wonderful book. You've made some changes, but the universal theme of that humanity is inherent throughout the entirety of it.
Good. I mean, because the book was this staggering achievement, in thinking about the adaptation to screen, the question was, how do we tell this story in the cinematic form, which is so different from the novel form? And the thing I was most interested in was that conversation between generations, because it's my story.
Yeah.
My parents came to this country. I was an immigrant. It's the story that I really latched onto because it was the most personal.
You said when you grew up you didn't have access to filmmaking.
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about
That's
1,000 Miles.
Yes, I thought that.
Yeah, it's your program
Yeah.
for aspiring writers.
And I give UCP and Universal so much credit for really putting their mouth on their checkbook where, in terms for this program. But growing up in Towson, Maryland and wanting to be a filmmaker, I always say Hollywood felt like going to the moon. It might as well be the moon, right?
Yeah.
And I just don't want that sense of struggle I would love it if people had a better opening.
Your program's called 1,000 Miles.
And it's based on this Chinese proverb that the road to 1,000 miles starts with one single step.
Yep,
And
that's right.
I love that idea.
Can I just say you look pretty good sitting on top of the moon? There's one final review. Pachinko is a triumph of visual storytelling that goes in its own direction and finds a destination that leaves you absolutely floored in how masterfully it executes its vision. So bravo, go you.
Bravo.
So good.
Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
We appreciate you. You can watch Pachinko starting today on Apple TV+.
Same day, somewhere else in the water, there is they're not Machiavellis, but they might as well be Machiavellis, speed demons in the water, out of the air in the water, in a more amicable compromise of their sailboats, but they finish in 15 minutes as opposed to like long drawn out whatever. We don't really see televised sailing anything in boats. But they did have a mention of that earlier in the programming today. Some guy, I think the brand company's name is Oracle, and he put together 8 boats. It says something about GP. Again, I know that druidically and symbolically these are important things. I just don't know the man. I don't know the story. I don't know how to even tie the pieces together other than the quick biopsy they gave me this morning on semi-intelligent machine. In, I guess, this viewing war room, whatever, of the world outside that is painted so horrifically. I'm going to see if I can rewind it and find that piece. Here it is. It's called Sailing on Steroids. And Great Britain, they refer to as GBR. I refer to the Great Beyond. That's something different.
Time for your Friday morning shot of adrenaline. When you think of sailing, you might not think of extreme action, hair-raising speed, or death-defying crashes. A new racing league called Sailgp is trying to change the way you look at the sport. This weekend, it hosts the grand finale of its season with a series of races in the San Francisco Bay. That's where CBS Sunday morning correspondent Lee Cowan boarded a 50-foot catamaran. to shut off and shut off at speeds of almost 60 miles per hour.
Up on land, she looks a bit awkward. Long and wide, her lines more aggressive than graceful. But once in the water, the F-50 catamaran is a rocket capable of sailing, yes, sailing, up to 60 miles an hour.
On these boats, you can't just sort of go half speed. It just has to be full throttle or nothing. Like, hesitation is actually very dangerous in these boats.
They don't so much float as fly on whiskers of carbon fiber that curl beneath the hull, that lift the boat straight out of the water. It's called foiling, a new class of boat for a new breed of sailor.
It's fun. Who wants to go slow? You know?
Australian Jimmy Spithill is a legend.
And this one is for all the marbles. The
He was the architect of one of the biggest sailing comebacks in America's Cup history back in 2013.
Yeah, they don't televise this kind of stuff in my area. I don't know why. In fact, before they had the program and then it split to another segment, and in between my local news and this program, the See the BS This Morning, there was a face of a brown woman that came on, but then she started speaking and then it cut sloppily over her and went into the local newscast.
America's Cup will stay in America.
But before these boats came along, some of his fellow athletes and friends wondered why he'd even bother with a sport that can be, to a non-sailor at least, like watching paint dry.
As soon as they started watching this, they were like, man, what the hell have you guys been doing all these years? This is friggin' awesome. This is made for TV.
And that is the point of Sailgp, a new league founded in 2018 by Larry Ellison, chairman of Oracle and leader of 5 America's Cup campaigns himself. Now in its second season, Sailgp has 8 boats representing 8 countries.
No idea what this American Cup means. I mean, it's like that a Holy Grail reference. Again, I have not been introduced to America the way that they're playing in America.
Crewed by some of the best sailors in the world, all hoping to bring the sport of sailing out of the doldrums and into a class with Formula One racing.
In the old format, we used to race for an hour and a half, sometimes 3 hours. Sometimes the race wouldn't finish. Yeah. It'd be so slow.
Right. Veteran sailor Russell Coots is the CEO.
Now, when you think about it, our final race is 15 minutes. And so that's very, very geared towards the modern viewership habits.
Says a lot about our attention span these days, right?
It's really pathetic. There's no stamina any longer. The human is so broken in this area that they don't even have it in them. They're in such a decayed fashion of mental capacity and optical ability that and even still, even if you get 5 minutes, it's like, are they even going to be able to carry that forward? I don't know. They fucked around way too long to make fun sailing boats. I mean, and adrenaline junkies with this Red Bull that, really, we could have used some helping hands.
There is certainly an element of science fiction to all of this. So much so, director Christopher Nolan put the flying cat on the big screen in his movie Tenet. That kind of mainstream visibility is attracting younger faces to the sport as well. At only 18, CJ Perez is the first and the youngest female sailor to join the Sailgp roster.
Women are just as talented, we're just as skillful as these men. We need to join in with them and create a more diverse environment for everybody.
How competitive are you?
I am so competitive, I can't even tell you. This is our time to win. We are working so hard, it's guns blazing.
But blazingly fast boats can bite, too.
Kind of the harder you push, the faster you go. But you cross that line, there's going to be a crash.
Look at the British boat leap out of the water.
In Sydney last year, the Japanese lost their bow. after the boat from Great Britain sliced it off in a collision.
Look at the load there.
In Denmark, the U.S. boat came around so fast, it threw crewman Paul Campbell-James clear out of his cockpit. He broke his leg.
I will say he continued to finish the race and then got off, went to hospital and got his leg cast. So,
Are you serious?
yeah, that's the sort of attitude that's in the team.
Up and away.
That's all to say, you better not bring your Chardonnay aboard. Getting on the water with the U.S. team is like joining any cool club. There's a bit of hazing.
It's nice and easy. Just keeping us.
That was how they teach you what to do if you fall off the boat and get trapped under it. Even to
Is that like their version of coming on a black box and commandeering a aircraft after you get stuck with a needle and like, what is going on? Already surrounded next to you by T-Frio 1975, who you already don't like and don't trust, but he's like the best that America had, and he's stuck to your shoe, and you really don't know what to do with him.
Even to a train die, it looks more like a mob hit than a safety demo. But boy, is it effective.
You.
I took one of the 6 coveted spots on the crew, which made me feel more like a third wheel on a date.
Come on, let's get it out of it.
The athleticism of the sailors around me, running and grinding, sometimes against 3 Gs or more of force, was as humbling as it was remarkable. They even sound like a fighter jet, they go so fast.
So you're no longer allowed to fly in the air, in the whatevers. What are they going to think of next? Great. So now they got sailboats that go just as fast because you're lower in gravitational force. Some other chum in the water. Like, can we fix the air now?
Which has a lot of old salts wondering if this is really sailing at all.
It's totally fair. You've got the feel of the wind, the salt spray in your face and everything, and yet you times all of that by like 100. It's beautiful, it's fast, it's dangerous, it's scary. Everything you want in sport, right?
All this high tech on the high seas doesn't mean the age-old art of harnessing the wind is gone. It just means you can now fly like the wind to catch it. For CBS Mornings, I'm Lee Cowan, somewhere in the San Francisco Bay.
Somewhere in the San Francisco Bay, and Lee's okay. I think that is so cool.
It's very cool, and I like the
Would you do it for
technology.
Is that your way of saying no?
I mean, I want to go to space, but this seems more, in my mind, this seems more dangerous.
Would you, Nate?
I'd do it, yeah. And I'm not an adrenaline junkie at all.
No, absolutely not. But I do.
I think I'd go for
I'd
it.
watch
but,
you
like,
do
I wouldn't
that.
want to do it for a living.
Sean,
gotta do it one
I think
day.
Nate is volunteering for an assignment. I would
do
like
it.
to see that. I'd really like to.
All right, I'll be watching that.
See, they get these assignments or they get a list of possibilities to sign up for as volunteers or to go for investigative journalism. I don't even have access to that. So they're introduced to a whole lot more possibilities that are taking place at the same time, where I've just been left behind in the field and like it feels like totally neglected and forgotten about. Big difference. It's star 1978, star 8378, Nicole Cattaruzza. Earth, solar system, Milky Way, universe, galaxy is broken. And it's Bayside Station, Bayside, New York, 11361.